Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
Trying to close the show.
She was doing a great job of feeding.
That is it.
It's over.
Coming up, so Katie, don't you regret not coming to the net? Don't you regret not coming to the net?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right, welcome everybody to podcast episode 716 of BD4. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and we are talking New York Yankees in this show. And we have a guest later in the show. Going to have a guest join us. That conversation has already been had, so I'll put that into this episode. That will be in, I wouldn't even say later, just a few minutes. We're not going to waste too much time with me yapping. But before we do get into that, I do want to just real briefly dive into the meaningless Pittsburgh Pirates series, but also just give my final thoughts on what the regular season was like and a little bit of my brief opinion on what the postseason could go like. So we're going to do that in this episode of BD4, episode, again, 716 of the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. This is a regular season wrap-up and a playoff preview. And again, we will have a special guest, Russ, who is known as NY Yankee Dad on Instagram. He's going to join us in just a few minutes, and we discuss the playoff odds for this Yankees team. So Russ from at NY Yankee Dad on Instagram is going to join us in just a few minutes to talk Yankees. So that's going to happen. But the regular season has concluded, and the Yankees finished up at 94-68. That was good enough for them to clinch the American League East, and it was also good enough for them to clinch the number one seed in the American League. Very weird year where there's been a lot of competitive, solid teams, but zero dominant teams. So that was enough wins to get them the number one seed throughout the postseason. So yeah, it was, it all started last year. The Yankees missed the postseason. Fans wanted heads. Unfortunately, everybody remained in their job. Everybody's position was the same. Aaron Boone still hung around. Cashman was still there. Hal never sold. So what they did instead was they decided to appease the fan base by going out and getting a gentleman who many of us have been asking for years, and that guy's name is Juan Soto. And they got that guy, and it turns out that guy's pretty good. And this Juan Soto guy ends up having a career season with the Yankees, finishing his season with a 288 batting average, a 989 OPS, a 179 OPS plus, 41 home runs, 109 RBIs. And he does that next to Aaron Judge, who has a ridiculous historic season batting, I think 323, 325, something like that, with an OPS well over 1,100. Just ridiculous numbers, 58 home runs, 140 whatever RBIs. Aaron Judge was historic next to Juan Soto, who was also historic. And then the Yankees got some good contributions from Jazz Chisholm, Austin Wells. Those guys started turning it around in the summer. Jazz comes here, obviously, as a trade deadline acquisition. Austin Wells starts getting hot around that time. Stanton comes back from the DL, and that's really where the Yankees started to hit off and click on all cylinders. So their lineup at the end of the day produced a top 3 lineup. My ask in the offseason, entering the preseason, I was saying this lineup has potential to, at worst, be a top 7 offense and at best produce the number 1 offense. They finished the season 3rd in runs, 3rd in OPS, and 1st in home runs. So their lineup produced a ton of offense. They had a good lefty-righty balance. They had decent depth, and they obviously had 2 historic best hitters on the team. On the other end, I thought the Yankee pitching held its own. They finished baseball with the 7th best ERA, 11th in rotation ERA, and 6th in bullpen ERA. Their bullpen for most of the season was scuffling. They suffered through many bullpen turnovers where certain guys were DFA'd, other guys were picked up, had some injuries. But I like to believe the bullpen found it towards the end. And as far as the rotation goes, they also had their ups and downs, but for the most part, they remained pretty steady. They were without Garrett Cole for the first couple months. That's when Luis Gil was on an epic run. Rodon had himself a bounce-back season. And the Yankees managed to pick up the, again, 7th best or 11th best rotation by ERA. So that's their season. And now we look at their odds coming out of the American League, and I think they're pretty decent. Obviously, their first round matchup is going to be either Baltimore or Kansas City, all depending on what happens this week. The wild card series, I think, starts on Tuesday. And that's basically what we're going to get into in this episode with Russ. So we talk about the lineup, the bullpen, the rotation, the Yankees odds, Boone, the fundamentals of the team, Soto, Dominguez, and Verdugo situation, the first base situation, all that stuff, catcher, we will dive into. As far as this series goes, the Yankees dropped 2 out of 3. Again, who really cares? They lose the first game against the Pirates 4-2. This was Rodon versus Jones. Jones is filthy, by the way. This kid can throw hard. He's got good off speed. But the Yankee bats produced just their 2 runs in the 5th inning, where Jazz Chisholm picks up a 2-run base hit with the bases loaded up the middle, 2 runs score. That was all your offense. Rodon, his final start, he looked sharp for 5 innings. He had a good slider, good changeup early. The fastball looked effective, but top of the 6th inning comes, and he surrenders back-to-back home runs to tie the game. Gonzalez with a leadoff home run off a hanging slider, and then Reynolds hits a solo home run off of a 96-mile-an-hour fastball up in the strike zone. That ties the game at 2. And so Rodon's final line, 5 1/3, 2 runs, 4 hits, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, 2 home runs, 95 pitches, and the no decision. Canely blew the game in the 8th inning for the Yankees, and that was the first game of the set. The second game of the series on Saturday, the Yankees lose 6-2. Luis Gil going up against Paul Skeens, who was just nasty for 2 innings. Gil was the opposite. He got shelled. He left everything up in the zone. He allowed 4 home runs. 95-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone to Grandal, gone. He left a hanging slider to Gonzalez, left the park. He hung a changeup to Cook, left the park, and then he went 95 up in the zone again, this time to Trillo, and that left the park as well. He was awful. That was that. The bats were bitched around by Paul Skeens early on. He owned Soto with the strikeout, 2-seamer inside up. Judge, he struck out. Judge had the 5 strikeouts in this game. The only offense, Jazz Chisholm with a home run in the 5th. You had the E6 on the fielder's choice with the bases loaded in the 6th. That scored runs. Bottom 9, it's a 9-4 game. Pittsburgh's ahead. The Yankees load the bases with 1 out for Judge. Takes it to a full count, but he ends up striking out swinging. Wells comes up next and doesn't get the job done, and the Yankees lose. And then they win Sunday, today, Game 3, 6-4. Clark Schmidt on the mound against Falter. Schmidt was not great. The bats were enough. Grisham hits a home run in the 1st. He also had an RBI single later. A run comes in off a Stanton double play. And then Verdugo, in a tie game in the 8th inning, picks up a big 2-run single to give the Yankees the eventual 6-4 win. And that was your series. That's a brief, rapid-fire recap of this meaningless Yankees-Pirates series. Tipping my cap in this series to Jazz Chisholm. He had a couple of multi-hit games. Jazz Chisholm sat today. But I'm tipping my cap to Jazz Chisholm. That is the third cap tip of Jazz Chisholm's Yankees career. That's his third salute. Carlos Rodon. Tipping my cap to him. He was the best starting pitcher of this series. Clark Schmidt was unimpressive. Luis Gil was horrendous. And Rodon was okay. So Rodon, tipping my cap to him. He finished his regular season with 12 salutes. And then Ian Hamilton. Tipping my cap to Ian Hamilton for putting together a solid series where he goes an inning and 2/3 across 2 games, no runs, a couple strikeouts. He's looked good since coming back. Ian Hamilton, has 5 salutes. He finishes his season with 5. And now we go to the leaderboards because the regular season's over. And so before we get into this conversation with Russ and I, we are going to read off the leaderboards, who had the most salutes, and then we're going to do a little bit of a report card after that as well. So if you're new to the show and you're just hopping on now for some reason, welcome. But for each series, we tip our cap to 3 players. We tip our cap to a guy in the lineup who had the best, hitting series. We tip our cap to the best starting pitcher of the series, and we also tip our cap to the best relief pitcher of each series. So we do that once a series for a position player, starting pitcher, relief pitcher. And so we've been doing that all year. And you look at the leaderboards now, and finishing, we'll start from bottom to top. So of the guys who did not get a single salute on the season, I did not tip my cap at all to John Birdie, Oswaldo Cabrera, which is unfortunate, Jonathan Loaizaga, obviously being injured all year, Nick Birdie, Trent Grisham, Oswald Peraza, DJ LeMahieu, shocker, Jahmai Jones, Jason Dominguez, short sample, Duke Ellis, came here for a day, left, and then whoever else played for this team that didn't get a tip, did not tip my cap to them. In second to last, with 1 salute at for this season, Scott Efros, Tim Meza, Caleb Ferguson, Ben Rice, Anthony Rizzo, Alex Verdugo, and Jose Trevino. I tipped my cap twice to Yandres Gomez, Tim Hill, Cody Poteet, Clark Schmidt, and Austin Wells. I tipped my cap 3 times to Cousins, Marinaccio, Gonzalez, Jazz Chisholm, Giancarlo Stanton, and Gleyber Torres. Michael Tonkin with 4 salutes. Anthony Volpe, Garrett Cole, Ian Hamilton with 5 salutes. Tommy Kahnle with 6 salutes. Marcus Stroman with 8 salutes. Clay Holmes with 9 salutes. Nestor Cortez and Luke Weaver with 10 salutes. And then your top guys, Carlos Rodon comes in third with 12 salutes. Juan Soto and Luis Gil tie with 14 salutes. And then, of course, your team leader with 18 salutes, Aaron Judge, the American League MVP, most likely. So Judge wins with 18 salutes on the year. Soto and Gil in second with 14. Rodon in third with 12. And then honorable mentions for the double figures, Cortez and Weaver with 10 each. So it's about right. But let's go over real briefly. Let's go around the diamond, and I haven't done this in a while. We used to do it once a month, but I'm going to grade everybody. I'm going to hand out report cards to the position players. I'll hand it to the rotation as a whole. I'll hand it to the bullpen as a whole. And then I'll grade Aaron Boone, right? And maybe the Yankees. We'll start in right field. Juan Soto gets an A+. Kind of said it at the top of the show. He was historic. There's not much else that needs to be said other than please re-sign the gentleman. Aaron Judge, I give him an A+. If there is a higher A+ than Juan Soto, it's Aaron Judge. The guy was historic, legendary, remarkable, whatever adjective you want to throw out there, he was that and more. Go to left field, Alex Verdugo, I gave a D. Just not a good baseball player for this team this year. His defense was okay in left field, yes, but it was more than okay. But the bat was not there. They got this guy to be for his bat. And he had a good first month of the season. He had a good week there at the beginning of May. But really, after that, it all started going downhill, and Alex Verdugo just stopped hitting for this team. So I gave him a D. Giancarlo Stanton at DH, I gave him a B. Considering where he was the last couple of years with the injuries and the horrendous performances, just wasn't looking like a baseball player anymore. I would have absolutely signed up for what we got from Stanton this year. He finishes the year, I think, with a 231 average, 27 home runs, 70-something RBIs. The OPS was over 780. A very productive season for Giancarlo. He was the third best bat on the team. Of course, he's going to get hurt. He does that once a year at least. But that was all really this year. He played enough games for him to hit, some good counting stats. So Giancarlo, I gave him a B. He's streaky. He's frustrating. But at the end of the day, despite the frustrations, he comes through with a good, productive season. Anthony Rizzo over at first base, I had to give him a D. I thought he was very bad. He could not hit a lick all year. He's not hit for 2 years. That concussion may have been it for him. I think he's pretty much done. He's got a good glove. He's got a good glove at first base. He can still pick it. So that's his saving grace. LeMahieu, he gets an F. He's not a Major League Baseball player anymore. He gets an F. Gleyber Torres, I give him a C+. Maybe that's too harsh, but I think the defense and base running drags it down because he did come through with the bat in the last couple of months. He's been a huge part at the top of that lineup, getting on base for Juan Soto. To have Gleyber Torres picking up base hits to right field, using center field, getting on base consistently again is big. But the defense at second base is not good, and the base running is absolutely fucking horrendous. You go to shortstop, Anthony Volpe, love the kid, rooting for the kid. I gave him a C-. Maybe that's too harsh. The big thing on this kid was his bat. It was his strike zone recognition. He was supposed to hit. These grades are all relative. They're all based on the expectation of each of these individuals, and Anthony Volpe was supposed to be a good bat. His shortstop play has been great, right? Doesn't have the strongest arm, but he has good range, good speed, and an excellent glove. But his bat was just way too underwhelming this year for his second consecutive season. It wasn't even great his first year, but most of us prefer his first year because at least he provided power. He comes into this season, he tries to flatten out the swing. The power's all zapped, and he's hitting for a better average, but with what cost? Because he's only hitting 250, which is just a little bit better than league average. I think he actually hit league average. It might have been all the way down to 244, and he came with no power, and he didn't walk. So that's a problem. They're going to have to work on that in the winter. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but he's their shortstop. They're high on him, so he's got to figure it out. C- for Volpe. Cabrera, I gave him a B-. Not that he was better than some of these guys, but again, this is based off their own expectation. This is a guy who's supposed to be a utility man off the bench. I thought he did a fine job of that. He was really hot at the beginning of the season. He went through a really, really rough patch in May, and then after that rough patch, he started to hit again, really. The numbers prove it. He's been good from the left side of the plate. He'll go lefty on lefty, not comfortable righty anymore, but whatever. He's been hitting at an adequate rate for a while now, and he's playing all over the diamond wherever they ask him to play. Shortstop, he started doing that a little bit more. First base, started doing that a little bit more. Whatever you need, Oswaldo Cabrera is going to give you. Jazz Chisholm has been a really strong acquisition for the Yankees. I thought he produced really good in his regular season stint. I gave him a B+. The speed, the athleticism, the versatility, and the left-handed bat, providing more power than we thought. He was stealing bases. I thought Jazz Chisholm was an exciting player for this team. solid, B plus. You know, the learning experiences at third base are pretty evident. Sometimes he makes some wild throws, but for the most part, Jazz Chisholm was very good for the Yankees. Austin Wells, I gave a B. Slow start to the year. A lot of that was bad luck early on. Then he gets hot for a couple months in the middle of the summer. Significantly cooled off again in the final month of the season. But was very good behind the plate. The framing was there. He was throwing runners out at an average rate. But, for a while there, he was a favorite for Rookie of the Year because the left-handed bat was producing line drive power. And I thought Austin Wells was solid for a rookie catcher. I gave him a B. Jose Trevino, I gave a C. He was okay. Not great with the arm behind the plate, but he is a good framer, and the bat is very underwhelming. So I gave him a C because he's supposed to be a backup catcher, and he did fine for that role. The rotation as a whole, I grade them a B. I thought they were solid with some ups and downs, but maintained decent, gave you decent innings. And in the bullpen, I also gave a B. Same thing. Had some ups and downs, some really rough patches, but they've kind of solidified towards the end of the season, and they saved their season. Maybe B's a little high, but at the end of the day, they had a top 7 ERA. Aaron Boone, I give a C. C plus, maybe. Let's go C plus because I'm in a good mood. I don't like the guy. I think he's lucky to have Soto and Judge mask a lot of his flaws, but I am not a fan of him. There was a point in the season where the Yankees were losing significant amount of games, and there was a point where people were talking about, was Boone going to get fired? I think it's been that bad at times, and he's just lucky to have good rosters because Cashman, is given a $300 million payroll to work with. So I don't like Boone's decision-making. I don't like the lack of accountability, first and foremost. That's the big thing. Guys make consistent mistakes. He says it's okay. Here you go. You get warm milk and cookie tonight. And that's why it keeps happening, because these guys don't really think it's that big of a deal. So Boone gets a C+. Overall, though, the Yankees had a good season. Okay, they had the best regular season in the American League. But now it's going to come down to who does the job in the postseason. And folks, that is what we are going to get into in this next portion of the show here on BD4. So we're going to head to break, come back with trivia, and then we will get to the second portion of the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back here on BD4, episode 716.
Hey there, thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much. You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4.
All right, let's get to our trivia. Okay. Open-ended question. An open-ended question for this episode. Episode 716, not really a trivia. Will the Yankees win the World Series this year? Let me know. Will the Yankees win the World Series this year? If so, against who, and how many games will it take? All right. Will the Yankees win the World Series this year? If so, against who, and how many games will it take? If you get the answer 100% correct, I will pay you $1 after they win the World Series. So, you want to be right here, folks. Yeah, with that said, let's get into this next portion of the show where Russ, NY Yankee Dad from Instagram, joins us to talk New York Yankees postseason. This is his first time on the show. He's got great content on Instagram. He posts very in-depth videos on his Instagram page after every game, and he's really good with that. So I suggest you go follow at NY Yankee Dad on Instagram. Once again, that's at NY Yankee Dad on Instagram. Russ does a very good job of analyzing Yankees games, gives his own input, but also talks about, gives you a little bit of a recap of what goes down. So that's the kind of content I think we need to see more. People have their own input. A lot of people are afraid to add their own input. So that's why I follow him. That's why he came on the show, because he brings a good insight. So with that said, let's get right into it. Russ joins us from at NY Yankee Dad on Instagram to talk Yankees. Let's get into it.
If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
And
Mm-hmm.
it should. I bought the full version, so it shouldn't cut off after 40 minutes. Sometimes it cuts off, but I bought the
Okay.
full version. So we should be able to go whenever. I don't need you for longer than that, but
Okay. Yeah.
20, 25, maybe even. So
Sounds good.
yeah, I guess your name's Russ, right?
Russ, yes.
Okay, got you.
What do you go by? Rob?
Rob
RJ?
or RJ, either or is fine.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I guess I want to start. I didn't really pay too much attention to the game today because it was meaningless, but I guess I want to get your overall thoughts before we dive into the postseason stuff. Your overall thoughts on how the regular season went. They missed the postseason last year.
Yeah, last year was a disaster.
Yeah. And they go out there in the offseason and they sign Juan Soto. So what are your overall thoughts on how this regular season went? We'll start there.
So, best record in the American League by the numbers, right? 94 wins. So you kind of, as a joke for a while, saying they were the best team I ever seen. No team to get 100 wins, kind of wild. But they've been the best. Judge is playing like he's from another planet right now, putting up numbers that Barry Bonds did. That was the last time we seen it. I think it was 04, 05. And overall, the regular season, I think they're an above average team. Comparing to the other competition, they're one of the better teams.
Yeah.
Our flaws just as bad, or maybe we're in a better situation than some other teams.
Right.
That's really how I'm looking at it, realistically. But
that's the way I look at it too.
With the injuries, we have now Rizzo. What was he really providing?
Yeah.
Statistically, I look at it from both sides of the spectrum. His leadership for the postseason run would have been good.
The defense too.
The defense definitely. He was starting to hit a little bit. Based off of what he's been doing.
Right.
Cousins was lights out. He got hurt, but they said he's going to be back. Hopefully he'll be back. How the sim games go on Tuesday and Wednesday. And Nestor was dealing, let's be real, and he got hurt. That was a big blow, I think. And we were going to see him and Clark come out of the pen. Now they're just talking Clark coming out of the pen for the division series.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. It's hopefully, like, compared to years prior, like we actually got pretty good health this year. Obviously Cole at the beginning, but relatively healthy. Like, knock on wood, Judge and Soto have played every game basically. That was the main thing I was looking at. Stanton's going to always go on the DL at one point, but he came back and he had himself a productive season. And like you said, the guys that are hurt right now, Cousins is expected back by the division series, and Rizzo, you can hope that you get something else from whether they go with Cabrera or Rice. But I think I agree with you, man. I think it's all relatives. You got to compare this group to the other AL contenders, to Baltimore, to Houston or Kansas City. And I think the Yankees, flaws are no different than any other team's flaws. That's been my big thing all year is like, we can complain about this team, but at the end of the day, you have to go through the American League, and
yeah,
none of those teams are really
exactly.
shocking you either. So,
And and like we were saying, 94 wins. I mean,
yeah.
what else? Best record in the
Yeah.
American League. It's hard to knock it. You really can't knock it
No.
at this point right now.
No, man. I have my concerns. But
Mhm.
like for the old, like I would say the strengths of this team, I would say it's obviously their power. You got the two guys up top. You got Soto, Judge,
And
Stanton's been providing. Glaber's getting
Glaber's
on
been
base for Soto and Judge consistently now. He's always
exactly. Yep.
he's turned it around. He turned his season around. So I would say the power's been there. Some guys at the bottom of the order like Dominguez, Chisholm could play big roles in October. That can always happen. Maybe
Mhm.
Verdugo gets hot. You never know.
Yeah.
Their bullpen, it was a weakness for most of the year, but I feel like over the last month or so, they've found a collection
It's
of
been
4 or 5
solidified.
guys who they can actually rely on. Weaver's taken it to, like, he was good all year, but he's taken it to another level since being
Definitely.
closer. Again, Cousins, hopefully he's back. He looked really good. Hamilton, I'm impressed with Hamilton. He's got that slider changeup thing he throws, the Slambio.
Slambio.
Yeah, and he's throwing like 98, so he looks healthy. They got the lefty specialist, Hill. So
Hill's been great.
I think they have the power. I think power and bullpen wins in today's game, and I think they have that. And obviously, you look at their starting rotation. Cole's the ace. I think he's kind of bought everybody back after his last 2 starts. If there were concerns, I think that's kind of gone. And
I would say so.
Rodon and Heel can be your ace on any given night. I think the problem with them is you're worried about the home run ball with Rodon, and then with Luis Heel, obviously any second he could lose his command. So, what are your thoughts on just their overall lineup, bullpen, and rotation?
Well, we'll start off with the rotation. So, I mean, Garrett Cole, just a little fun fact: his division series career, he's 6-0 with a 1.71 ERA.
Wow.
So, that's something good looking at. And backtracking to the Devers game, we'll talk. The intentional walk. Backtracking to that, he's been lights out since then. He had the complete game in Oakland, kind of just shut everybody up. And his fastball looks like it's there. I mean, the knuckle curve he's added.
Yeah.
I think that has to do with the elbow stuff.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, I think that has. But hey, whatever works. I mean, even Rodon switched up his pitch mix this year.
Yep.
And look, it's worked for the better. Yeah, the home run ball, but he's in the conversation for comeback player of the year.
Oh, for sure.
And what was it? 32 starts, 32. I believe. And for what we had last year, what can you ask more? I mean, 32 starts. He was.
Dude, the way I look at it, not to interrupt you real quick, but my opinion on Rodon is they brought him in here obviously for the postseason for sure, but regarding the regular season, they want him to eat innings, punch tickets, and he's done exactly that this year.
What I was going to say was Rodon was reliable. Kind of crazy, but he was reliable, just like Nestor was. And Heel, everything we've gotten from Heel, let's be real, has been a surprise.
Yeah.
No one was really talking about him in spring training. Even the team wasn't. He had no innings in the minor leagues. And he just kept going with it. May was insane. Like it was.
Yeah, it was without Cole. He stepped up without Cole.
Yeah. Yep. So. I mean, I look at it like this. Cole, you know what you're going to get postseason. Rodon, wild card, because I think he had one postseason start. I didn't look it up, but I think he had one postseason start when he was with Chicago.
Yeah.
And Heal's the wild card, but that's where Clark Schmidt comes in. The guys in the bullpen. Where if anyone gets in trouble, you got to get the guys up.
They have the pitching depth this year. That's the one thing they have.
And they were even talking about Weaver working multiple innings. So we'll see. I mean, they got to get creative. The only team who has that lockdown closer right now is Cleveland with Class A.
Right.
Who else scares you that's a closer?
Right. I agree.
That's that old traditional close. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we don't have that. So you got to get creative.
And that's the one thing they can do. They're able to get creative with their depth. I know
Mm-hmm.
Cortez was a big loss for sure. He was like
Yep.
their Swiss Army knife, but they do have Clark Schmidt right there who's able to do the same thing. He can be your
Exactly.
number 4 if you have to go to him in an emergency, or he can come out of the
Mm-hmm.
pen. He could do the whole piggyback thing. If you go 4 innings with your starter, maybe you bring Clark in for 4 or 5 after that. You could do a lot of things with Schmidt. And yeah, like you pretty much hammered the Rodon has the upside. He 8 innings. He struck batters out this year. He went to the pitch. He deepened his pitch mix for sure, like you said. Like he was still, fastball slider, but he added in more changeups versus those right-handed hitters. He threw that curveball a little more.
Yeah.
So that's something you want to see
But
from
yeah,
Rodon.
concerning though, he did double the amount, more than double the amount of home runs in his best season. I remember looking at that. Yeah, I remember looking at that the other day. He had, I think, with the year with Giants, it was either 12 or 14 homers.
I
And
wonder.
This year he gave up a lot.
Do you think? I wonder how many of them were at Yankee Stadium. That's something I'd be curious to know.
Yeah. Well, I know he's been relying more on the slider, and the
Yeah.
problem a lot those bad starts where the slider was hanging.
Yeah.
It was a lot of the hanging slider, but when he goes fastball changeup and mixes the slider in, that's when Los is on the loose.
He's very interesting to me because he'll come out some starts and he'll be throwing like 94, but then there are times when he comes out there throwing 97, 98, and he's looking really sharp. So
yeah,
I
in
think
the
it's
first,
confidence.
second inning what you're getting with him. Really, the first, second inning, you know what you're getting.
Yep,
and it's not even a knock on him. It's not even a knock. It just you can see he's an emotional pitcher, but Heel is who concerns me a little bit.
Yeah.
With the we can't have those back-to-back walks type of starts, or loading the bases. We've seen it.
I think they're going to have a short leash.
They're going to have to.
4 innings.
For everyone except Cole.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
They're going to have to abuse their bullpen. If they want to win, they're going to have to go to it early. Yeah. If you go to the lineup, what do you think about their odds to hit postseason pitching? I know they've struggled against left-handed pitching this year. And, if they play Baltimore, I think they're carrying that rookie lefty. If they play Kansas City, obviously, Keegan Aiken. And they also have the guy Povich. You go to Kansas City, obviously they've got Reagans, who's a left-handed pitcher who's just tough to hit.
Gave us a lot of trouble when we faced him. Judge was saying he was out. And I'm happy we're not facing the Tigers now. If you remember, Soto was 2 for 22 that series. He was like irrelevant. Remember that?
I remember
the Comerica series. He was irrelevant. So I was kind of happy about that. And they're just too hot right now. Let someone else deal with them.
You get a young team like that with an ace like Tarek Skubal. Yep. That's incredible. They can get hot any moment in the postseason and they can take this thing. So I agree with you there.
Trey Sweeney's been playing very good.
Oh, former Yankee.
Trey
Sweeney's
my gosh, been playing really good.
That's a throwback.
But hey, I mean, we've seen what Baltimore can do.
Yeah.
Last year, this year, we've been playing pretty good against them. For Baltimore, usually we're good against them. This year, 5-8.
Yep.
This year we're 5-8. So even though Baltimore's record kind of changed a little bit, the tune of them playing good against us, it's not, like we don't beat up on them anymore like the old days.
No, we don't. And the thing is, I think if they can get to the Yankees get to the Baltimore bullpen pretty well. I think they pick up the ball very well against that guy Cano. The other night they got on against him, made him work. I'm not really terrified of their bullpen. Their lineup is very deep. They have a lot of guys they can hit, and obviously they got Corbin Burns. So
Adley was very underwhelming this year too.
Yeah, he did have a down year.
But you know who scares me more than Corbin Burns? Dean Kramer. He really kills us.
He kills the Yankees, man.
He
I remember his rookie year from the very start.
Yeah, I remember watching the World Baseball Classic for Israel. dominating against Team
Oh
Italy.
man,
We were like,
I
who is
remember
this
watching that.
guy?
Yep.
This guy. Hey, we got to get to him. I mean, it's pretty much he's the sinker, slider,
Yeah.
sweeper. He's like a Clark Schmidt type.
Yeah.
And, same type of pitcher, which is what the norm is now. Pretty much for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
And but the familiarity with Baltimore would be better. Kansas City not scares me. It's just that the matchup is just different.
They have a very good top 3 rotation there.
Because we've been struggling too much going into this postseason. It's a scuffle.
Yeah.
It's really bad. It's a bad scuffle right now. And I think playing Baltimore, they'd be more comfortable. It's a team they're more comfortable with.
I would normally be concerned about going into the postseason cold, but I think regardless of how hot and cold you are, they're going to have that 5-day layoff this week.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it's going to change things. But I want to shift and talk about left field because that's been a conversation over the last month. Now the good thing is Dominguez, if you watch the last couple games, he got a lot of reps in left field. There were a lot of fly balls. So he got some practice in, which was good. I think after that 4th dropped ball a couple days ago, I think the next day Boone put Dominguez in the lineup. And to me, that was him kind of saying, okay, you're still going to have this job. But I think what they're going to do is they'll let him get 3 at-bats late in the game. They're going to put either whoever they carry, Verdugo or Grisham, as a defensive replacement. So I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, from the cards that they have shown what was it? The last 10 of 13 games, it was Dominguez played, something like that.
Yeah.
The last, at that point when it was coming into Friday, I think he played the last 10 of the 13 games. So they kind of showed that Dominguez is going to get some run here. I think it's going to be a real heavy matchup based. Like if we're playing Kansas City, Seth Lugo, don't be surprised if Giancarlo's sitting. Corbin Burns,
Really?
Giancarlo's sitting. Yeah, I think it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
I think we'll see Dominguez DH and Verdugo in left against a tough righty. It's going to be a very matchup based. They're not going to really give up on Verdugo. I can't see them just doing that.
No, I mean they went all year at this point.
Exactly. Just the Yankee way, the way the Yankees operate. I can't see them doing that. I mean, they ran Josh Donaldson out there.
Yeah.
And we've seen it constant. They did it years back, the old days. Nick Johnson, remember that name?
First baseman.
Guys just force fed. It's just the way it is, so they can't do it no more. So, I mean, hopefully Verdugo can come through. It's simple as that. I mean, he's gonna play. Hopefully he can come through.
What do you think?
If it was up to me, I'd put Dominguez. Dominguez would have been up before the All-Star break.
That's what I'm like. I think where they messed up was once he came back in late July from the oblique injury, they should have gave him a couple series in Scranton, but then he should have been up like mid-August to get reps in left field.
When Jahmai Jones was batting leadoff,
it
should have been Jason Dominguez.
There you go.
Subway Series, City Field.
You never know. He gets
Jahmai
those
Jones,
not Jahmai Jones.
JD Davis.
if he gets those left field reps in for the last 2 months, maybe this isn't an issue anymore, and maybe he can hit.
We could be saying his conversation for Rookie of the Year with Austin Wells or Luis Heel, who should get it. Heel should get Rookie of the Year just for the consistency.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to him and Kowser.
Yeah. Just because Wells' bat fell off a little too much.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It did, but his fielding's been great. We actually see a catcher throwing guys out. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Who would have thought?
Hey, I'll give it to Trevino. He had a couple the other night. I was actually shocked.
He had two. I know.
Yeah. What do you think about the depth of this lineup? Are you concerned anywhere after Aaron Judge and Juan Soto? Because the way I look at it, it's just going to simply come down to Aaron Judge needing to bounce back and have himself a good postseason.
Well, we were talking.
Go ahead.
We were talking Austin Wells.
Yeah.
How he's been struggling. If he's going to back clean up, fifth in this lineup, clean up in this lineup, he needs to bop a little bit. You know, he hasn't really been bopping, and I don't mean home runs, extra base hits, RBIs. You know,
Yeah.
Stanton has been a postseason, you know, anchor for us in the past. For
Yeah.
a majority of his, you know, career with us for the postseason. So you're kind of banking Stanton can do his thing.
Uh-huh.
Jazz is a wild card. So you can put Wells in that mix too. Wells, Jazz, Volpe, they're all
Okay.
wild cards because you don't
A lot
know.
of
I
wild
mean, Volpe,
cards.
guys, you don't know. They've never played in the postseason before, you know?
I think that's a very good point. The experience. But like you said, Stanton has a lot of experience now in the postseason.
Yeah. And
Um,
Glaber can
Gleyber
earn his
Torres.
contract this postseason.
Yep.
He can pull a Carlos Beltran
Oh,
Houston Astros and
I, dude,
and make his money.
I haven't had the balls to say it. I haven't had the balls to say it out loud
Yeah,
yet. But
you
if
heard me
Torres,
say it. Carlos Beltran, Houston
if
Astros, Gleyber Torres. Let's go, bro. Come on.
if he has a good postseason, I don't mind because he's had a few before. A couple, last couple of years he's been struggling. But I remember there was a point in time where Gleyber Torres was hitting in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
if he has a good
And
postseason,
as of late, he's been hitting his bat to ball.
yep.
He's not been striking out as much. His fielding is a different thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's a different animal. I think Birdie should be a defensive replacement for him. You know, if Oswaldo is not playing first where he should be, in my opinion.
What do you think about? You make a good point about the fielding. What do you think about the
Yeah.
fundamentals overall with this team between the base running,
Oh, the
the
base running drives
mistakes?
me.
It's like between whether it's Torres, sometimes it could be Soto, sometimes it's Verdugo, but
Jazz.
Jazz. There are constant
Mhm.
mistakes on the bases.
Yeah.
Jazz had like twice in that one series. Like it's a real problem, and I think it keeps happening because a lot of the time their manager sits there post game and he says it's all okay, and these
But
guys
I
think it's
don't think it's
okay.
emphasized. I don't think the Yankees
No,
emphasize that style of play. It's not Joe Torre baseball
no,
where it's where it's move the guy over. RBIs are the most important thing. You know,
right.
it's not. I don't want to say it's not smart baseball. It's just there's certain fundamentals now that not lacking. It's not important. Like bunts, you don't see guys bunt no more
No,
at
it's
all.
it's mainly the game's become about,
Yeah.
like
And
I
the
said,
Yankees definitely
power.
don't steal enough. The Yankees definitely don't steal enough for the
No,
speed. But
they
and
don't
that's been
run.
an argument for a long time. We had Brett Gardner stealing
Huh.
less than 30 bags a year, which is a disgrace. You know, he should have been stealing 40, 50 bags
And
every
you know
year
what?
for
You know
like
what's funny
8
about
years.
that,
So
man? He kind of played through two different eras because I remember the start of his career, he was stealing 40 bags a season.
yes.
And then as he got deeper into his 20s, they told him to stop because analytics took over
Mhm.
and they think it's
Yep.
too big a risk. So I remember
Mhm.
that. But
But
hopefully with
nobody
guys,
nobody runs.
no, but like
Nobody
you're hoping
runs.
you have speed. You got Volpe, you got Chisholm, you got Dominguez. Those guys can all
Hmm.
do it. You're hoping that they give him a little more free reign to do so this postseason because getting into scoring position is huge, especially in the
Yep.
playoffs.
Which we do. I mean,
Yeah.
Yankees get on base. It's the little things. You know, they lead the world in double plays. I don't know the exact amount, but they
Yeah.
lead the league in double plays.
Yep.
And for years now, the runners in scoring position is just horrendous.
Yeah.
It's that goes along with the double plays.
Oh, for sure. And it's going to come down. It's simplified. At the end of the day, if Aaron Judge hits, if Juan Soto hits, they're going to hit playoff pitching.
Mhm.
But if one of
But
those
this
guys is
lineup's
not,
big enough to pick it up too. This lineup is
for
big enough.
sure,
If
the
Soto
depth,
struggles a little bit,
right? I believe that there's depth here. You look at every other lineup in baseball, they have a couple of holes too, just like us. But the Yankees have depth and they've got two historic legends
I
at
know.
2 and 3. So their potential is extremely high offensively. Again, the couple of concerns, like you said, scoring position. But what I'm focused on is I just hope they're able to hit left-handed pitching because I think clubs now know that, and they're going to throw every lefty they have out of the
Yeah.
bullpen. They're going to start whatever lefties they have, and that's one
Mhm.
thing. I don't know what it is because they have a good balance of lefty righty in their lineup, but they're just not picking up the ball this year
I
against
know
lefties.
it's been wild, really.
Yeah.
Because you see, like even like Glaber, the guys who mash lefties aren't mashing lefties.
Stanton usually does, but he's more righties this year.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a weird year. I thought Stanton's batting average would be a little higher. I mean, he's had a great season for what
Yeah.
it was. But what was he like 230 something? And
Yeah,
so I think it was like
231.
231. So I mean, I thought he would be at least maybe like a 240,
Yeah.
250.
It's
But he
crazy
was hurt for
because
a little while.
today you look at the league average, it's like 240 something. So it's
Yeah,
not it's like that's
I
where the game
I,
is.
I know it's nuts. And for him to have 27 home runs,
Yeah. No, I'll
kind of
take it.
wild,
Productive.
kind of wild.
Yeah, man.
And
I think
like you said, if Judge and Soto hit, they'll
yeah,
be fine.
it's
It-
gonna come down to that, man.
It's going to come down to they're going to pitch to them, but
Yeah,
that comes down to
yeah.
is Wells going to step up a little bit? Wells is going to have to hit. Let's be
Yep.
real. Wells is going to have to hit.
Batting cleanup, you better.
He's going to have to.
I
And
I just I'm concerned. I just need Judge to get the monkey off his back and finally
well,
bat.
yeah, I know. I don't want to say it, but yeah,
That's my biggest. Like he had people forget early in his career, he had some really good moments in the ALDS, ALCS, but
Yeah.
like the last 3 seasons, it's been especially brutal for him in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I still remember 2017 after DJ's
Yeah.
homer, and then him striking out.
Yep.
That's what kind of sticks to me a little bit, and that I shouldn't be thinking of that for Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
But I'm a little older, and
Yeah.
I'm used to I'm nostalgic with the Joe Torre years.
That 09
I
team is the last one I remember. I don't remember
see
the early 2000s Yankees.
1998 was my jam, bro.
Yeah. The 09 was my 98.
Okay, yeah, 1998, 99,
Yeah.
they just steamrolled through everybody. It was a joke.
Yeah.
They swept the Braves in the World Series in 99, and
Yeah.
2000, the Mets had the better team, and we wound up winning.
That was
And
against
a lot of
the
that was
Mets.
Subway. Yeah,
Okay,
Subway
yeah.
Series was 2000. Yeah,
What was the Marlins when they played the Marlins?
Marlin 2003.
Okay.
Aaron Boone.
Yeah, that was the Boone home run.
That rookie Miguel Cabrera smashing Roger.
Wow.
He was like 1920. Dontrell Willis was dealing. Josh Beckett.
Wow.
Yeah. That
All
was
right.
terrible.
All right. So
Yeah,
what do you your overall thoughts, just to wrap it up here, on how far you think the Yankees can go? Who would you rather face in the ALDS?
Okay.
Just give me your overall final thoughts on this team's postseason odds.
So I think that they can go all the way. Honestly, I think the team was built for it.
Yeah.
Even with the couple of injuries they have now, the team, compared to everyone else, is built for it. I would rather see the Orioles, like I said before, with the familiarity of playing them,
Yeah.
and just because I just think with the way the team's been hitting, if Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans and like Lucas Urseg come in here hot,
Yeah.
it could be like you're looking at 3-4 hit, like shutout game, like shut down.
Yep.
And I hate to say it, but I can see guys like that. Even the Orioles have what it takes to do that too. But if you ask me I'd rather play, Baltimore.
Yeah,
Baltimore.
I think I agree with you. I've been going back and forth the last couple of days, but I always go back to, I just think Kansas City has the rotation to get it done. I would not be surprised at all if they were the team to come out of the American League. I still have the Yankees as my favorite, but behind the Yankees, I would not be shocked if Kansas City made another run, because they just have a good pitching squad. And, Bobby Witt is incredible. People forget about him. So
Cleveland scares me a little bit too. They've just been too quiet all year.
Yeah.
I mean, Jose Ramirez.
Yep.
I mean, Stephen Kwan's been down a little bit, but he is taking over series against us. We've seen it before. It's just, Yeah, they have their flaws, Cleveland, but Cleveland could be a dangerous team.
Such a weird year, man. There are so many wild cards. Like anybody can get it done. There's so many
Yeah,
teams who have 90 to 94 wins this year. So
yeah.
anybody could
It,
come out of the AL.
it is. I mean, for the American League, yeah. I mean, it just who's going to get hot?
Mm.
Who's going to get hot? That's what it's going to come down to.
And usually it's the team with the roster to do so. And I think the Yankees have the shot. So
Yeah,
this
we,
has got to be the year, man.
we will see. I mean, it definitely has to be the year because Soto's no guarantee.
No.
A lot of things are no guarantee. I mean, hopefully, you never know. Garrett Cole could opt out.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
We could touch on that real quick because I do want to get your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
on Garrett Cole. Would you bring him back for another what's the deal on his contract? He can opt out for what, and then he could
I,
or he could sign in.
I think I don't know the exacts of it, but he could opt out or the opt in was like 20. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something where he can opt out to get like some sort of restructure type deal,
Oh, okay.
something like that. I'm about like 75% sure about it.
Well, this has to be the year with him, man. He's 34, I think. And
Yep.
you have to imagine when the Yankees initially made the deal for Garrett Cole, they didn't envision winning a championship when he was
No,
34. They were hoping they would have
no.
got it already.
Well, you have Juan Soto now. It could be
Right.
this could be it.
This is
So
their window.
it's do or die now because
This is it.
who knows what's going to happen with after this season. Really, that's how I look at it. You don't know what's going to happen.
It's going to be a completely different team. They have like 8 or 9 guys who are expiring. So,
Mm-hmm. I mean, if just for the simple fact alone, it's like, all right, you have Soto and Glaber. That's 2 guys at the top of the lineup that are free agents.
Yep.
So, I mean, and with the way
Top
the
of the
game
lineup.
is now, you can't bring both of them back.
No.
So,
And again, Cole, like you said, you never know. If he opts out, Soto's gone. I mean, that's like
yeah.
enough to
I mean,
rebuild.
I don't see him opting out, but it's still
No.
part of the deal. He could if he wanted to. You never know.
I don't see him doing it either just because he's a little less than what he used to be. I don't want to say he's out of his prime, but he's definitely not, top notch peak Garrett Cole. So I don't know if he's going to opt out.
Yeah.
I think he's going to stay into it, but
Well,
yeah,
the elbow injury kind of changes things a little bit.
for sure. He's not throwing 98, 99 like in his late 20s, but he could still get it up there. He's still obviously he could show you what he can do with what he did against in his last 2 starts. So
Now, do you think for first base are they going to go with Rice or Oswaldo? What
that's
do
a
you
good
think?
question. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Mhm.
I think from everything, it seems like with what they did with Rice today, it seems like they're going to try to go to Ben Rice. And honestly,
Mhm.
I wouldn't hate that. I think Cabrera's been hitting the last couple months, so it's tough to take his bat out. Maybe they
Yeah.
do some kind of platoon, but Cabrera does prefer hitting lefty though. So I really don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I think
I
Ben
don't know
Rice,
either.
I think Ben Rice showed signs. I know he struggled as he got deeper into his first stint with the Yankees, but he does hit the ball hard and he does draw a ton of walks. So
He
I think
does.
there's potential for Ben Rice to have a big postseason.
Yeah. Now, I mean, my whole thing with Oswaldo, the only thing is it's kind of an old school mentality, but it's like he put in his time.
Yeah.
Like I mean, yeah, when he had his run at third base before we got Chisholm, he could have hit more. When he did have his chances, but I'm more of the school where I think Oswaldo should get the first crack at it, but it's going to be matchup based. I think it's really going to be matchup based. A
I
lot
agree.
of positions are going to be matchup based.
No, I agree. Cabrera should definitely get a shot. I just don't think the way the Yankees have treated him all year, like they
Yeah,
barely play him, dude.
I know. It's weird. It's strange. Yeah, I mean, even Grisham like disappeared from the lineup for like weeks, and then
Yeah. Right. But like with Cabrera, you would have thought that like when Rizzo was out all summer with the leg injury, he would have got those first base reps, but they were using him on
right.
LeMahieu,
Yeah, you're right. LeMahieu and then
So,
Rice. Yeah,
I
and
understand.
then Oswaldo started playing first later on. But yeah, it makes
Right. So it was interesting to me, but Yeah, man. Like going back to it, I just think I think this team's got a legitimate shot. It's going to be tough, of course. It's going to be tough, but I think if there's one year where they can do it, it's in a
This
year
year.
where the American League is very balanced. So
I mean, hey, 94 wins, number one team in the American
94,
League.
yeah, 94 wins, number one seed in
That's
the American League. That's all you need to know.
yeah.
But it's going to be tough, but I really believe behind Garrett Cole, behind Soto and Judge, that's a three-headed monster right there that no team's going to want.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
all right,
We'll see
man.
what happens. Should be
I
fun.
appreciate it. Appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Russ and I talked about this Yankees team's odds coming up in the postseason. October 5th, baby, Saturday. I will be there at the stadium. I will be in the Bronx. Same old section 236, left center bleachers, and I am so excited for it. Hopefully we don't get let down. But folks, that is going to wrap it up for this episode. Episode 715 is in the books. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and I will see you. Maybe I'll see you throughout the week. You know, I'm not entirely sure how many episodes I'm going to be able to drop this week, but I do want to get at least one more out there. Maybe we can have another guest on. I'm working on that behind the scenes. If I can get it done, I can get it done. And just a reminder for the postseason, we will be recording not every series, but every 2 games. So that's going to be at least a couple times a series. So that's just a little heads up for what's to come. All right, folks, that's it. I appreciate you all, and I will see you very, very soon. Let's go win number 28. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you, and we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees, and go Knicks!